What you should say when a narcissist spreads lies to destroy you. When a narcissist sets their sights on your reputation, it rarely begins with loud accusations. Instead, it unfolds like a shadow war, subtle at first, but corrosive as it spreads. Psychologists often describe this as the narcissist's reliance on narcissistic supply. They thrive on control and chaos, and few tools provide this as effectively as a smear campaign. By dragging your name through the mud, twisting half-truths, and recruiting flying monkeys, the loyal enablers who spread gossip on their behalf, they create a distorted narrative designed to turn others against you. According to Dr. Ramoni Dervisula, a leading clinical psychologist in narcissistic behavior, the smear is not only about damaging your image, it is about destabilizing your sense of self. The narcissist knows that when you feel cornered and isolated, you are far more likely to doubt yourself and surrender your power. This is why defending yourself instinctively feels so urgent. Victims often rush to explain, to justify, to clear the air. But psychologists warn that this very reflex is what narcissists are counting on. Dr. George Simon, who studies manipulative personalities, explains that once you react emotionally, you've entered their arena, the stage where they thrive. In that arena, your anger or long-winded defense is twisted as evidence of guilt. Narcissists masterfully rewrite history, omitting their provocations and highlighting only your reaction. To outsiders, you suddenly look like the aggressor. This psychological trap is what makes smear campaigns so devastating. They are battles of perception, not truth. So how do you fight back without losing your peace? The paradox, as many therapists emphasize, is that you don't fight fire with fire, you fight it with strategy. Sun Tzu's ancient wisdom, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, resonates deeply here. In psychological terms, it means refusing to give the narcissist the emotional supply they crave. Dr. Carol McBride, author of Will I Ever Be Free of You, highlights the importance of disengagement. The less reactive fuel you provide, the weaker their campaign becomes. Instead of arguing point by point, the healthier approach is to demonstrate, document, and deploy. Demonstrate through calm consistency, document every facet or interaction, and deploy carefully chosen words that are factual, not emotional. This turns the smear from a performance into a data-driven exposure of truth. But understanding the mechanics of a smear is equally crucial. Psychologists describe it as a three-tiered system: the instigator, the narcissist, the amplifiers, the flying monkeys, and the audience, the bystanders who lack context. The narcissist whispers poison into the ears of the amplifiers, who spread it to the wider audience. Their goal is twofold: to isolate you socially and to provoke you into an emotional outburst that confirms their lies. Once you react, they only retell your reaction, not their provocation. Dr. Craig Malkin, who studies narcissism at Harvard Medical School, explains that this selective storytelling is how narcissists rewrite reality itself. Victims are left bewildered, asking, "How did I become the villain in a story I didn't write?" Your counter-strategy must therefore be deliberate. Think of it as what some experts call the SLAY framework. S. Strategy. You choose if, when, and how you respond, never letting the narcissist dictate your moves. L. Leverage. You anchor yourself in facts, emails, texts, dates, and timelines, so that if exposure is necessary, truth speaks louder than emotion. A. Anticipate. You expect the smear tactics so they no longer shock or destabilize you. Foreknowledge reduces their impact. Y. You remain the center of control, refusing to lose your identity in their chaos. Healing and recovery, however, require more than tactics. They require reclaiming your inner stability. Psychologists stress the importance of building a support system that is immune to the narcissist's influence. Trusted friends, therapists, or communities who can reflect reality back to you when gaslighting and smears blur your truth. Stress, if unaddressed, corrodes reasoning and even the body's health. Trauma therapists remind us that boundaries, mindfulness, and restorative self-care are not luxuries but lifelines. Each time you resist the pull to over-explain, each time you calmly hold your ground, you are not just protecting your reputation. You are retraining your nervous system to no longer dance to the narcissist's tune. In the end, smear campaigns are not merely attacks on your reputation. they are battles for your mind. The narcissist wants you reactive, exhausted, and doubting your own worth. But with psychological insight, strategic restraint, and unwavering self-preservation, you can flip the script. As Dr. Judith Orloff reminds us, your power lies in what you do not give away. You do not have to join the spectacle. You do not have to bleed truth in the arena they designed. Instead, you rise above it, grounded, calm, and untouchable, until the smear campaign collapses under the weight of its own lies. One of the greatest insights psychologists share about narcissistic relationships is that patterns equal power. What the narcissist intends as chaos can, in fact, become your compass. By observing their predictable cycles, smears, triangulation, projection, you begin to see not random attacks but a blueprint of insecurity and control. Dr. George Simon, who specializes in manipulative personalities, reminds us that once you recognize these behaviors as patterns, you strip them of their mystique. You no longer debate their falsehoods. You transform them into data, not drama. Each repetition becomes evidence, and evidence is leverage. But this shift in perspective requires preparation. Smear campaigns, as clinical psychologists emphasize, are not occasional lapses. They are calculated attempts to draw you into an emotional vortex. Left unguarded, you can easily find yourself dragged into cycles of defending, over-explaining, or even pleading. Dr. Ramoni Dervasula explains that this suction effect is designed to destabilize you, forcing you to exhaust energy in proving your innocence. Anticipation becomes the antidote. By expecting these tactics, you rob them of their power to surprise. Having pre-scripted responses in your arsenal ensures that when the storm comes, you meet it with calm precision rather than reactive panic. This is where boundaries become your shield. Psychologists describe boundaries as psychological fences. They protect your emotional territory and signal to others how you expect to be treated. Keeping your words brief and firm is not weakness. It is a stance of self-preservation. When you rely on pre-scripted responses, you enforce boundaries without entangling yourself in the narcissist's theater. The message becomes clear: you will not be dragged into their vortex. You set the terms of engagement, not them. And central to this strategy is you. Psychologists often remind survivors of narcissistic abuse that their identity is not up for negotiation. Your value, your dignity, your worth precede every encounter. Dr. Kristen Neff, a leading researcher on self-compassion, stresses that self-respect is not arrogance. It is the floor you stand on. When you declare that you expect respect, you are not demanding special treatment. You are affirming your humanity. In this way, your identity becomes the tone setter, the boundary line, the immovable ground on which your destiny rests. To operationalize this mindset, here is a phrase playbook, each one carrying psychological weight. Phrase 1, I prefer to let my actions speak for themselves. This phrase signals quiet confidence. When faced with accusations like missed deadlines, you calmly present evidence, delivery receipts, completed projects, or documented results. Psychologists note that this sidesteps drama by refusing to engage emotionally while simultaneously grounding the conversation in facts. It shifts the focus from narrative to reality. Phrase 2, that doesn't align with my experience. When family members or colleagues accuse you of being selfish or ungrateful, this phrase invites evidence without defensiveness. For instance, you might add, I hosted the last 2 holidays, or I covered expenses. Dr. Craig Malkin emphasizes that this type of response avoids jade, justify, argue, defend, explain. You're not debating. You're calmly stating facts that contradict distortion. Phrase 3, if anyone has questions, I'm happy to clarify directly. This phrase dismantles triangulation, one of the narcissist's favorite tactics. By redirecting the issue back to direct communication, you project transparency and remove the narcissist's ability to twist narratives behind your back. Psychologists often highlight that gossip thrives in the absence of accountability. Once you invite direct dialogue, the cowardice of gossip is exposed. Phrase 4, I'm not available for gossip. If there's a concern, please put it in writing. Here, you establish both a boundary and a record. By insisting on documentation, you turn slippery accusations into tangible evidence. Clinical therapists stress that this move reclaims power, because what was once manipulative whisper becomes traceable data. As always, the narcissist's patterns are their own undoing. The more they repeat, the stronger your case becomes. In the end, these strategies are not just about words. They are about reclaiming your frame. You stop dancing to the narcissist's tune and begin conducting your own. Each calm, factual statement rewires the dynamic. You no longer appear reactive, you appear resolute. Psychologists remind us that healing from narcissistic abuse is not just about escaping the smear. It's about restoring your voice, your value, and your vision for the life you deserve. When you approach every smear with data instead of drama, with boundaries instead of pleading, you no longer play their game. You write your own. One of the most destructive traps narcissists set is the endless he said, she said cycle. It's a game designed to exhaust you, to pull you into a web of circular arguments where truth becomes irrelevant. Psychologists point out that this tactic thrives on confusion. By creating a fog of conflicting narratives, narcissists exploit human beings' natural desire to defend their integrity. Dr. Ramoni Dervasula notes that once you attempt to debate every distortion, you're no longer proving your innocence, you're performing for their stage. A far more powerful stance is to calmly say, I'm not available for gossip. If there's a concern, put it in writing. This ends the verbal ping-pong and demands accountability. And here is the psychological twist. Narcissists rarely put their accusations in writing. Why? Because documentation locks their manipulation in stone, stripping them of the wiggle room they rely on. Written words are evidence, and evidence is the last thing they want following them into mediation, HR, or a courtroom. This is where documentation becomes your quiet weapon. Psychologists call it externalizing the reality. When narcissists deny, gaslight, and rewrite events, keeping written records, emails, text screenshots, dated notes, anchors you back to what truly happened. Dr. George Simon emphasizes that manipulators fear paper trails, because those trails cut through their ability to distort memory. Silence plus documentation, as survivors often call it, becomes your bulletproof leverage. Imagine this scenario: you're co-parenting with a narcissist, and they send an email filled with venom, claiming everyone knows you're a horrible person. The instinct to defend yourself is strong. It's part of our wiring to clear our name. But psychologists caution that reacting emotionally only validates their narrative. Instead, you let the smear hang in the air, untouched, and reply only to the practical issue at hand. Yes, 3 p.m. on Wednesday works for the child exchange. The smear withers in silence, while your factual calmness strengthens your credibility should a judge or mediator later review the interaction. Clinical therapists often recommend going a step further by containing communication channels. If you are co-parenting, insist, through legal avenues if necessary, that all exchanges happen in a monitored app designed for co-parents. This not only reduces direct exposure to toxic words but also creates a built-in record. Dr. Carol McBride, who has worked extensively with survivors of narcissistic families, stresses that such boundaries are not just about legal protection. They protect your psyche. By funneling interactions into structured, documentable channels, you free your emotional space from the chaos of constant smear tactics. The same principles apply in the workplace. If a coworker repeats a rumor, psychologists suggest a calm acknowledgement that simultaneously asserts boundaries. Thank you for letting me know. Noted. If necessary, you can add, could you tell me who said that and when, so I can address it directly. This does two things. First, it signals to the gossiper that you won't participate in shadow games. Second, it exposes whether the accusation has substance or is simply another echo of the narcissist's smear campaign. As Dr. Craig Malkin explains, triangulation, the act of pitting people against each other, depends on secrecy. Once you demand directness, the game begins to collapse. And here is where perspective becomes liberation. Every smear, every rumor, every betrayal reveals more about the people around you than about you. Psychologists often reframe smears as information. Who carries gossip? Who remains neutral? Who defends your absence when you're not in the room? These responses, painful though they may be, become a filter. Over time, you discover who is safe, supportive, and aligned with your healing, and who is not. This pruning, as harsh as it feels, ultimately strengthens your circle. Survivors who embrace this shift find that their lives grow lighter, surrounded by fewer but far more loyal allies. The temptation to defend yourself publicly, especially on social media, is immense. Yet, experts warn this is the most dangerous trap of all. Public defense feeds the very spectacle the narcissist has engineered. Dr. Judith Orloff calls this the energy trap, a desperate attempt to plug every hole in a dam of lies, which only drains you further. Like the child in the story trying to stop leaks in a dike with too many fingers, you will never patch every rumor, never silence every whisper. The goal is not to chase every drop of water, but to step away from the crumbling wall altogether and build your own ground elsewhere. A simple, dignified line such as "I don't engage in public disputes" says everything without saying too much. It protects your energy, denies the narcissist their spectacle, and preserves your reputation through restraint. In the end, silence and documentation are not passive. They are deliberate, powerful acts of psychological resistance. They shield you from the narcissist's vortex of distortion, build undeniable evidence of truth, and sharpen your awareness of who stands with you. Above all, they allow you to reclaim the one thing narcissists fear most: your calm authority. By refusing to play their game, you stop being the hunted, and quietly, without fanfare, you become untouchable.